You're listening to the Marketing Funnel Show, episode number 74. Did you know psychological research has shown that people take only 1/10 of a second to form first impressions about somebody, and that web users take only half that time to form a first impression about your website? So, how do you communicate your authority in such a teensy tiny amount of time? Well, let's talk about that today. Welcome to the Marketing Funnel Show. I'm your host, Michelle Evans, and this is the podcast for coaches, experts, and online business owners to learn how to go from simply surviving to sold out using the power of marketing funnels. All right, let's jump into today's show. Well, hello there, and welcome back to another great week, and thanks for letting the Marketing Funnel Show be a part of your week. Hey, I've got to ask you, have you taken a moment, just like 1 or 2 minutes, to jump into Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Google Play, or wherever you listen to your podcast to leave a rating and review? If so, do me a favor, just send me a screenshot and I will give you a shout out. And even better, I will send you a great free mini course called the One Sentence Marketing Hook that will help you come up with your one sentence to hook and engage your audience into what you stand for and offer. This is usually a bonus that you only get when you buy Build Your Funnel Bootcamp, but I'm going to send it to you for free simply for going in and rating and reviewing this podcast. So if you get some value from it, I would love it if you would do that. All you have to do is send that screenshot to Michelle at michellelevans.com, and I will add you into that course for free, my friend. All you have to do is let me know. All right, today we are continuing our talk about the principles of persuasion, and yes, these are so key to marketing. In fact, I would venture to say that just about all marketing principles taught over the last, 30-35 years are pretty much based on this work by Dr. Robert Cialdini in one way or another. And if you've missed episodes 70, 71, 72, and 73, you're going to want to go back and listen to those eventually. You don't have to listen to them in order. They don't build one on the other, but they definitely all go together because all of these principles of persuasion work together to really hook and engage your audience and build that desire for what you offer, for your company, for your, product, for your program, for your service, all of that stuff. And so again, this starts in episode 70. And when you match up the principles of persuasion with your marketing funnel, you can create a profit engine that attracts clients, students, customers for years to come so that you can get profit in your business without worry. Now, in his book, Cialdini explains the psychology of why people say yes. And then he talks about how to apply these principles in your everyday life. Now, when he wrote this back in 1984 originally, he was talking about how to use it to get a yes from your boss, a yes from your spouse, a yes from your kids, a yes from your parents, just everyday life. And I'm helping you take these and apply them to our online businesses, right? And today we're going to tackle principle number 5 and apply it to your marketing funnel specifically, because using all of these principles in your marketing funnel will make a huge difference in how effective your funnel actually is for your audience and your results. So as a quick reminder, Cialdini's principles are: number 1, reciprocity; number 2, commitment and consistency; number 3, social proof; number 4, liking; number 5, this is what we're talking about today, is authority; number 6 is scarcity; and number 7 is unity. So again, today we're going to dive into pillar number 5, which is authority. Look, I have a confession. I struggled hard with calling myself an authority in the first couple of years of my business. Even though at that point I had a degree in marketing, I had 16 years of corporate experience, I had been a vice president of marketing, I had taught marketing at the Microsoft Marketing University. Like, I had credentials up the yin yang. I had awards, I had industry recognition, but when I left my corporate job, I felt lost and alone. When I was at Microsoft with my title, I automatically had a level of authority. The moment I said that I worked at Microsoft, people looked up to me, even when they didn't know what my job title was. They automatically assumed that I was smart and that I knew what I was doing to have been hired there. And once they found out what my job title was, my authority typically went through the roof. People didn't question me. That was really addictive, and it made me super, super lazy in building my own authority. I'm not even gonna lie. I just relied on these external sources of authority and credibility, and I did not bother to cultivate my own deep sense of authority factors for myself. It's like putting on armor and being, fat and flabby underneath, right? It's like, I was so lazy about it. So when I left that safe cocoon of my job, I was lost. And if you are in a job or you've left a job cocoon, you may have felt the same way, and I get you. I know exactly how that feels, and it was really hard. In fact, for a long time, I didn't even really recognize it because I was so close to the situation that it was hard for me to really step back and objectively see what the real problem was there. And it was really uncomfortable too. This isn't part of Cialdini's work, but it is something that I had to discover for myself. In order to be seen as an authority, I first had to understand and come to terms with what I was an authority in. I had to be comfortable calling myself an authority, standing on my own 2 feet and looking in the mirror and saying, "Hey, Michelle, you are an authority." And today I'm comfortable with that. And I'll tell you, I run into people all the time who are not. And when I wasn't comfortable with that, what happened was that I spent a crazy amount of time and money on trying to prove that I was an authority. In my first 3 years in business, I took over 30 online courses. Yeah, I took more than 10 courses a year. And my first year in business, probably my first 18 months in business, I think I took 15 courses. And I joined 4 masterminds in an attempt to prove that I was an authority. But even though it was frustrating and difficult to go through that time of trying to find my way and figure out what my authority was, what I really stood for, I actually wouldn't trade it out for anything. And I know that sounds weird. And if you're in that place, I'm just gonna cheer you on and say, keep going through it, because it was the school of hard knocks that I needed to come to terms with who I am and what I really, truly, actually stand for. Now, I know there are some people who don't need to go through that, and that's awesome. If that's you, I'm a little jealous. That's amazing. I'm excited for you. But the vast majority of people I talk to, we're still trying to find our sea legs. Sometimes it takes some of us a while, and that's okay. And, for me, I had to make some tough choices. I had to decide what I stood for and what I stood against, because I'm definitely not an authority in all things, and neither are you. But I am an authority in my subject area, and so are you. And I'm not an authority because I took a bajillion courses. And I'm not an authority because I have a college degree or a ton of corporate experience. I'm an authority because I am committed to every single day becoming better and better and better and better and better. I wanted to share that background with you because often when I talk about authority, it can be insanely triggering for people. And I know it was really triggering for me for a long time as well. Because a lot of times people feel like they're just not good enough yet. And so I wanted to share with you, I get you. I've been there too. So if you're sitting there feeling like, I don't know if I'm an authority yet. I need to finish that certification, or, like I'm not good enough yet. Hang with me, friend. You probably are. You probably are. I'm here to tell you that you are good enough. You probably just need to slow down and decide to draw a line in the sand about what you stand for and build your authority from there. You don't need to go from where you are to, 8-figure launch tomorrow, right? But you can go from where you are to helping one person. You can go from where you are to helping 5 people. You can go from where you are to writing an article. You can go from where you are to being on a podcast. You can go from where you are to taking one small baby step forward. And that builds your authority one step more, right? So hang with me and let's dive in. Now, there are 3 main factors that trigger the authority principle that really build that authority, okay? So authority factor number 1 is position of power and or experience. So think about this for yourself. How would you react if the man begging your groceries started giving you advice, unsolicited advice on building your business? The person checking you out says, hey, what do you do? And you're like, hey, I have my own business. And the person begging groceries starts telling you what you should be doing in your business. You'd probably barely listen with a polite little smile on your face. And in your head, you're thinking, this guy is nuts. Why is he telling me what to do in my business? What does he know? He's begging groceries. Well, what if that guy suddenly took off his hat and fake glasses and you found out it was some sort of undercover entrepreneur guru, and you discovered that it was Richard Branson, the founder of the Virgin Group of companies, one of the most successful entrepreneurs of our time? You'd probably ask him to go, rewind, repeat everything, let me get my phone out and record you talking, right? What changed? Well, he went from grocery beggar, who knows nothing, to one of the world's most successful entrepreneurs, right? He went from an unknown quantity, what the heck do you even know? You're begging groceries, you clearly know nothing, to, oh my God, you founded so many hugely successful companies and I pretty much want to be you. Can I go to your island and hang out with you, right? Suddenly he had a title and recognition that validated, yes, this is someone who knows entrepreneurship, and yes, I would like to take your advice. So when Dr. Cialdini originally wrote his book back in 1984, titles like CEO, doctor, professor, and even manager were very prestigious. These days, I don't know, doctor probably is always prestigious, but we have other ways of establishing someone's position of power and experience beyond just a title. In fact, I'd say that things like founder, expert, author, director, partner, those are probably more or just as persuasive as a PhD or CEO, assuming a certain baseline number of followers and, intellectual property out there like blog posts or, that kind of stuff. So the big question for you is, what do you call yourself? And how have you gone about proving your expertise, your experience, and your position of power to others? In other words, how have you gotten your body of work out there? Do you have a podcast? Do you have a blog? Are you regularly putting your information out there? Do you have a book? Are you speaking? How can people understand what you stand for and what you know? How can they learn more from you? This is why people work hard to get featured on media outlets, on TV, on radio, on newspapers, blogs, podcasts, speaking events, and more. Because those are immediately recognized as authority building factors that establish credibility almost immediately. And if you've been featured anywhere, make sure that those clearly and prominently show up on your website when people go there. Because remember, at the very beginning of this podcast episode, people are going to make literally a snap judgment about your authority and credibility when they land on your website. If they see a logo or, that you've been featured on a few places, even if they've never heard of those places, they'll be like, oh, this person's been featured some places. That's cool. Clearly other people want to hear from them. They're an authority. And if they're places that they've heard of, that's even better. But just know, being featured other places is a great thing to do. So if you've never been featured anywhere, maybe take a small step and reach out and be featured somewhere. And it doesn't have to be on TV or radio or some giant news conglomerate. It can be on a small blog or a small podcast. It's just a matter of getting out there and starting to build your authority factor. All right, authority factor number 2. Clothes and other superficial cues that signal authority. So here's a story that I found in the Washington Post, and it was so perfect for this section on authority building that I had to bring it to the podcast. I'll link to the video in today's show notes, which you can find at themarketingfunnelshow.com/74 so that you can watch the video if you want to. So here's the story. There was a man like many others that you've seen on street corners and, bus stations and that kind of stuff, playing instruments for money. So this guy was wearing jeans, a t-shirt, and a baseball cap, and he walked into a DC metro station and took out his violin. And just like, a bajillion other street musicians that you've ever seen, he put his violin case out on the floor so that people could put in some money, right? And he ended up playing for right around 40 minutes. And during that time, more than 1,000 people walked by. But only 7 people stopped. And they only stopped for a moment or two and listened. Of those over 1,000 people who walked by, less than 30 people gave a total of $32. And I couldn't figure out if this guy had, preceded it with some of his own money. But all the rest of the crowd hurried by, too busy to be bothered, right? You can picture this scene in your mind because you've probably seen these guys before in your life. Somebody's playing on the street corner, they're playing a guitar, they're playing, whatever instrument, this guy's playing a violin. And to be honest, how many times have you and I done that to street performers? For me, unless I'm on some after dinner stroll or a vacation, I'd probably barely give that street performer a second thought because I'd be on a mission to get somewhere, which sounds awful, but it's really true. What about you? So here's the kicker, because this was an experiment, which is why there's video evidence. In this case, that violinist wasn't just some Joe Schmo hanging out trying to get some rent money. No, this was Joshua Bell. He's an internationally acclaimed virtuoso who's widely regarded as one of the world's greatest violinists. Yet, some people didn't even notice him at all. A few days later, after the video that showed up in the Washington Post was taken, Joshua headlined a pretty much sold-out concert tour in Europe. Then he came back to the U.S. to receive the Avery Fisher Prize as the best classical musician in America. So yeah, he's a pretty big deal. And people pay big bucks to see him in concert. I just did a quick search for his 2019 concert dates. Just his San Francisco concert in May, the cheapest seats are $116 each, and his most expensive are $438 per ticket. Yet, when he wasn't on stage, when he wasn't dressed in, a fancy tuxedo, when Joshua was just a dude hanging out in jeans, a t-shirt, and a hat at a metro station. One out of, I don't know, every 150, 200 people could barely spare a buck for him and could barely pause for a minute or two to listen for the exact same thing. He was playing the same violin and the same music. So what gives? Well, in this case, it's all about the power of context. Psychological research has shown that people, honestly, I said this at the very beginning, they only take about 1/10 of a second to form a first impression about somebody. 1/10 of a second. That is fast. And it's unconscious. We're not like trying to make judgments about people, but we do. And it's even worse online. Another study found that online people take half that time. I don't even know how fast 1/5 of a second is. It's really fast to evaluate a website. So, the big question is, how do you communicate authority quickly so that you're treated like Joshua on stage in his sold-out European tour, not Joshua at the metro station where people can barely spare a buck and nobody wants to listen? And the truth is that we naturally and unconsciously add weight to advice that we hear from people that we admire and respect. And we naturally subtract weight or even disregard, don't listen to, sometimes don't even hear advice from people we don't admire, don't respect, or don't even know. So here's the truth. You don't have to be up on a big stage to be taken seriously. You don't even have to be a huge celebrity or a well-known author or a media personality. If you are, that is fantastic. Use it. If you are not, you've got some warming up to do. This is why the strategies, the tactics, and the marketing approaches that big-name, well-known people teach don't work for the rest of us. Because those big names, they're already well known. People already believe them. They already have a big advantage over you and me because they're already on a big ginormous stage. People already believe them. They already have this huge authority, figure. People already say, wow, they're making millions. I better listen to everything they say. They're already Joshua up on the big, big, big stage, and people are saying, I'm going to, throw money at you. But if they put on a ball cap and jeans and went and played the violin in the metro station, people would ignore them, right? And that's what's happening to us when we're in our ball cap and jeans. It's just not that we're not saying the right stuff. It's just that we haven't gotten that authority figure yet. And I mean, if someone that you're following has 1 million Facebook fans and they're teaching you a Facebook marketing strategy and you only have 500 fans, their stage is a heck of a lot bigger than yours, right? And there's nothing wrong with your stage at all. But, there's absolutely something that you can do to give yourself a big advantage as well. And that thing is that you have to be willing to warm people up. They don't have to warm people up to the same extent that you do. And that's why a marketing funnel is so vitally important to your business. They've already done the warming up. That's why they have such a big stage. But we need to do more warming up to create a bigger stage for ourselves and to create a stage where people are like, yeah, actually, I do want to hear this. This is great. This person seems to really know what they're doing. And that's why a marketing funnel is so important to your business, because it'll give you an unfair advantage in setting the stage for your business. Instead of just, popping open your violin case in the metro station and starting to play your heart out and doing your best, you're saying, nope, I'm going to actually build a stage and show that I'm an authority and have people, pause and pay some money to listen. And when you get to set the stage, that changes how your audience views you. Suddenly you go from some random person to an expert when you do it right. All right, authority factor number 3 is trappings. So let's talk about this last piece of proving your authority factor quickly to your audience so that they believe you quickly. When I think of trappings, I think back to my early corporate days when I worked in banking. So at the age of 24, I was hired as the head of marketing and investor relations for a bank, and I got a big corporate office with lots of windows and big, heavy, old school furniture. The previous person who I replaced was a man, of course, and he had wanted to show how big and important he was. I hated that furniture. It felt very masculine, very dated, and very ugly to me. It just felt heavy and yucky and old, and I was stuck with it. But soon I found out why these trappings were important, because people would reverently come into my office and I was this 24-year-old kid. And yes, I was good at my job and I was hired for a reason. But, my peers were double my age or more, and there were people coming in that could have been my grandparents, and they were calling me Ms. Mason. I wasn't married at the time, and they would shake my hand, and they would ask my opinion, and they would politely listen to everything I had to say, and it was very odd and humbling. And these trappings told people that I was important and that I was someone that they needed to listen to, even in my first weeks on the job when they didn't even know who I was, which was really strange coming from my previous position where I was in a cubicle farm at a much larger bank. So yeah, I know that trappings can matter. And let's be honest, you and we're not having people come through our offices very often, right? I mean, I do sometimes have clients over to my office in my home, but not that often. Mostly I meet with clients via Zoom. And I'm definitely not meeting with all the people who I interact with on my website daily. So the trappings that you and I need for our business, those are a bit different. Really, the only info that people can get about how successful and authoritative we are online is through 3 main things. Number 1, your website. Number 2, what other people say about you. And number 3, your social media channels. So online authoritative proof overlaps a lot with social proof, and it's important to approach your authority pieces strategically. So for example, there are some specific places you'd like to be featured so that you can quickly prove that you're an expert within the 0.5 seconds, the half a second of someone hitting your website, right? So you want to think about, okay, where do I want to make sure that I'm featured so that when somebody hits my website, they go, oh, this person, you've been featured here. Wow. You must really know what you're talking about. Are there some specific case studies or client examples that you want to cultivate to promote so that clients understand the benefits that come from working with you? How will you showcase those examples? Where will you feature them? Will you ask others to spread the word? For example, when I interview a client or a student, they usually share their podcast interview on their own social media channels and to their own audiences. And that's a huge win-win for both of us. It's a win for the person who was interviewed because they're able to talk about their business and what they offer and their opt-ins and all that kind of stuff. And it's a win for me because I get to showcase how I work with clients and students to get them results and also to get in front of new people, their audience. And finally, which social media channels are you growing and what expertise are you showcasing there? The truth is, when you demonstrate that you're great at what you do, people will believe that you're an expert and, they will respect you. The authority principle is a powerful tool to use in building your brand and getting people to trust you. But there are a couple of caveats that you need to be mindful of. The first one is, while these tips are meant to activate an almost automatic human response, they will backfire on you if your product, your program, or your service isn't up to standard. There's nothing worse than like reading amazing testimonials or amazing case studies. And you're like, wow, this sounds like the best thing ever. And then you buy something and it's like, these people must have been paid or they're friends or something, because they clearly overpromised and completely underdelivered. Like, if nothing else, just know that you should never, ever, ever overpromise and underdeliver. Because once you lose the faith and trust of your audience and your reputation, there is no amount of money, no amount of marketing, no amount of song and dance or anything that you can do that will get it back. Just don't do it. And then the second caveat is, when people believe and trust your brand authority, they're also going to have higher expectations of your ability to deliver. So deliver. And, if you fall short, and, we all do, like sometimes things just fall through the cracks or whatever, own up to it. Own up to a mistake. Own up to something that didn't go right. And make things right. Really make things right. It's okay to make mistakes, but be sure to follow through and make things right. Because if nothing else, you want to own that authority. Make sure that you keep that authority, keep that trust. Because once you lose it, it's gone. So let's recap this here. The 3 factors that go into your authority are this. So authority factor number 1 is the position of power and or experience. And, again, where are you being featured at? And how are you letting people know that you're being featured there? Authority factor number 2, clothes and other superficial cues that signal authority. And this is just really like, how are you going to show people that you're authoritative? What's the stage that you want to set for your business? And then authority factor number 3 is trappings. Your website, what other people say about you, and your social media channels. And with that, let's recap the entire principle. Being good isn't enough. You need to demonstrate. You need to prove that you're an expert so that people want to buy from you. We went through 3 authority factors you could use. Which one or ones will you use so that people find you and your business more compelling? Let me know what comes up for you. Hit me up on social media or just email me, michelle@michellelevans.com. I would love to hear from listeners just like you so that together we can create a podcast that is valuable, helpful, and gets you on the road to the marketing insights you want to grow your business. So as you are listening to this, did you think of someone who could use these insights about the persuasion pillars? They are really, really powerful in building a solid business that grows a committed buyer audience. If so, would you do both of us a big favor and share this episode with them? It's easy to do from whatever podcatcher you're listening on, or just share the URL for today's show at themarketingfunnelshow.com/74, and your friend can listen there. Also, do you want to profit without worry in your business? You are invited to find out which marketing funnel is right to grow your business. Just hop on over to michellelevans.com/quiz to take the quick quiz, and I'll show you exactly how to get started. You can experience for yourself exactly how the persuasion pillars work so that you can put them to use in your own business. All right, I hope you have a really amazing week, and I'll see you back here next week, same time, same place, on another great episode of The Marketing Funnel Show. See you then.